Gareth Tudor-Price. I'm the director of By the Waters of Liverpool.
I'm Rob Fenner and I'm the writer of the stage play By the Waters of Liverpool.
Well, I think it starts with you, Rob, actually adapting the autobiography.
Well, briefly in a potted version. It started with my friendship with the author of the book, Helen Forrester, way back in the 90s, where we first met. When I first adapted the first volume of autobiography, Tuppence Across the Mersey, which Helen came to see at the Empire, and subsequent incarnations of it. Is it incarnation or carnation? Yes, I got it right first time. I went on to, huge success. All these years later, we now are doing the third volume of autobiography. People say, well, what about the one in the middle? What about the second one? Well, that's also incorporated in this third one. So By the Waters of Liverpool is the third volume, but it also features a sizable chunk from the second, which is Liverpool based. So anybody coming to see the show for the first time, or those that have already seen Tuppence, will not feel that there's any bits missing. Because we also hark back to a little bit of Tuppence, just to fill in any gaps for those new to the story. Well, she's older now. I mean, Tuppence was when a wealthy family first arrived in Liverpool when she was 11 years old. Her father thought it would be a good place to rebuild his fortune. He lost everything during the Depression of the 30s. He didn't realise that it was probably the worst place he could have brought his family, because they were from a really wealthy background with nannies and servants and private education, and they suddenly found themselves thrown amongst the sort of streetwise working class of Liverpool. So they were like fish out of water, and they couldn't survive. They didn't know what to do. Helen was taken out of school as the eldest child of 11. Well, she was 11. There were 9 in the family, 7 children, and it was her job, her role, to try and get this family through everything that was going on. And this story picks up from when she's 15 on to 20, and when she becomes a young adult, if you like, and picks up the story from there.
Yeah, I mean, Helen narrates the play as well. There are 10 actors playing a total of 60 characters. So there's a lot of quick changes. It's a very sort of dramatic piece of storytelling as well. It flows very quickly, and I think it's a big canvas as well, this story, because the autobiography, this third part, By the Waters of Liverpool, tells a huge story from sort of 1936 up to the outbreak of the Second World War, 1939, and into 1940. So I think it'll have a great resonance for a lot of people, especially within Liverpool as well, what was happening in Liverpool at that time. But I think for people who are new to the story, I think people will be able to sort of be drawn into that as well. They won't have to have seen Tuppence Across the Mersey to be able to fully appreciate and to get into the story of By the Waters of Liverpool.
I mean, each of the books sold 1 million copies, so Helen's readership, they'll all know. People who come and see this show will have either been to see Tuppence or they will have read the book, so they'll be well versed in the story anyway. But the other thing is, a lot of the things that happen within the story are still happening today, and it's surprising just how many. You put the news on and you see all the the news, everything that's going on in the news that you think is just something a modern event. It was all when you look at the thing, and you can just see the parallels between then and now. I'm not going to go into more detail because it'll spoil it. But if anyone's expecting to see a sort of rose-tinted version of what life was like in the 1930s,
the good old days,
it will forget it. It's not going to happen. It's quite hard. It's very hard hitting, in fact.
There's humour in it. There's a lot of humour within it, of course.
But it's not. It's not a gentle look at what was going on. Helen herself. You have to remember that Helen was 11. She was a woman in 1930. It's bad enough to get on. Many would say now, if you're a female trying to get on in life, then it was almost impossible. And yet, despite everything that happened to her, she ended up becoming this world-famous, international best-selling author. And that's the moral, I think, of the story. That
it's really, very helpful, the fact that, for example, Maria Loveday's playing Helen, as she did before. Emma Dear is playing the mother. And, of course, the other characters, I think Mark had been the father in one production. So they know the story. They know the characters. They know where that comes from. So with only 2 weeks to rehearse, there's a lot to do, of course. But all the actors have obviously done their research. It's evident to me well before coming into rehearsals, so we're already starting, we've already got a head start, so to speak, on the whole story and the style of playing it as well.
That's right. The other interesting thing, or the other important thing I should say, is that Helen Forrester's son Robert Bartier, he came to see Tuppence in 2015 it was, and he loved it. You know, he said, you couldn't get a better compliment. He said, I recognised my mother on that stage.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, of course, without his consent, of course, we wouldn't be doing this one. So, and Robert and his family are coming to see the new show. So, for us, for me as the writer of the piece, and for Gareth, we want to make sure that that the readers of Helen's books, her most famous books, she's written a number of famous novels as well, but these volumes of autobiography, it's important that when they come and see it, that they recognise people on that stage as the characters that the characters they love, that they've read in those books.
I think the audiences will enjoy seeing, you know, 10 actors playing 60 characters. There's no sort of stage management coming onto the stage to remove bits of furniture. The actors do it all. It's a very, you know, close-knit, strong ensemble telling this story, which, as I said, will, I think, have great resonance with all the audiences who come to see it, whether young or old, male or female.
It's surprising how many people have not seen this style of theatre before. And when we toured with Tuppence, you know, they used to, with all due respect, and they've so you know, this sort of musical box theatre, or you know, the one night, and they're quite saying this is completely different. It's much riskier to put on as a producer, you know, because I have to, you know, we're putting a producer's hat on. It's a difficult form of theatre because it's not cheap to do. It's expensive to do. You know, we talk about 70 characters. Well, they all need a costume. You know, so it's not an easy thing to do. And when people come to the Empire, they're going to see something that they've probably not seen at the Empire ever before. And if they have, it won't have been for a long, long time. It's a beautiful lighting, beautiful set, very fluid. It's a whole new experience to a lot of people. You know, it was new to me when I was first introduced to this style by Bob Eaton. You know, so, and I was fascinated. I thought, why haven't I seen this before? And this is why Gareth is, you know, highly experienced in this genre of theatre. That's why Gareth's into sort of, you know, to really bring it to the masses now.